Welcome into the Western Front, presented by Victory Plus, the exclusive home of the Western Hockey League. The Western Front is our twice weekly whip around the Western Hockey League, and I'm pleased today to be joined by WHL Commissioner Dan Neer. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Frank, and I got to start by congratulating you on the show and thanking you for the coverage of the league. Yourself, Kate, Steven, you guys are doing a fantastic job.
Thanks so much. Yeah, really appreciate you joining us today as we take a whip around the league. And got to start with just the bright prospects that you have. We touched last week on our show on Maddox Schultz, who's really just stepping into the league. But when you think about the overall perspective, I mean, Gavin McKenna, 2026, Landon DuPont, 2027, potentially Maddox Schultz, 2028. You're looking at the possibility of 3 number 1 overall NHL picks playing in your league. Have to ask, is this the golden age of the WHL?
Well, Frank, we certainly hope so. And I think that it's a testament to hockey in Western Canada and the Western United States. And, the development is strong. It's at an all-time high. We can't take all the credit, right? Because the players are developing until they get to us. But once they do, we think that we're putting them in a really good spot. And with the NHL camps kind of wrapping up, you'll start to see some of these players trickle back. And the caliber of our league is really at an all-time high. And we're very, very proud when you look at the national team programs, you look at the NHL draft, there's a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. That's actually only happened, by the way, once in the modern NHL draft era for 3 consecutive number 1 overall picks to come from one league. And if you consider Connor Bedard in there as well, that could be 4 times in 6 years out of the WHL. So as you mentioned, very impressive. But when you see these graduates make their way to the NHL, one of the exciting things, Dan, is that they're making an immediate impact right away. There were 145 WHL alumni that were on NHL opening night rosters. What's it like as the commissioner to see guys like Ben Kindle and Harrison Brunick in Pittsburgh rubbing elbows with people like Sidney Crosby and Mario Lemieux?
Well, they've done some very cool things on social over the past couple of weeks where the fans have got a taste of what that must feel like. And I'll tell you, these guys come into our league and they're young, they're wet behind the ears, and they're unbelievable hockey players. And by the time they leave, we hope that they're in a position to be to be able to hang with these guys. And I think the way some of these NHL professionals like Sidney Crosby handle it and welcome these guys with open arms, prepares these guys for the next step. And, I think it's probably likely we'll see some of these players come back to our league. And Tisha Ginla just came back down, of course. And Braden Coots just came back down. And when you hear about the impact they made at the NHL level in a short period of time in camp and maybe an exhibition game and a regular season game or two, how they're going to develop this year. They're going to have big years, of course, and they're going to put themselves in a position to be ready for the next step.
As we look at Harrison Brunick's face in the presence of Mario Lemieux, what would you have your jaw on the floor around number 66 as well?
Yeah, I absolutely would. And, it's surreal, some of the things that we get to do and the proximity to legends. You see some of these young guys, their first interactions. And, we announced Landon DuPont as an exceptional player. That was more than a year ago now, a year and a half ago. And he had some quick interactions at that point. And he had never really met that many NHL players, despite the fact his dad was a pro hockey player. And suddenly he's rubbing shoulders with the very biggest names in the game. And, it's part of what you get coming through this stream. And it's very cool to see. And I know Brunick's going to be a great talent in National Hockey League.
Yeah, it's every player and every hockey fan's dream. So the cool part, Dan, is once they go and rub elbows with some of these players, then if they are on their way back to the WHL, they're kind of instant leaders on their team, right? They've got that experience. What is it about the WHL that makes it a proving ground for leaders? 8 of the 32 NHL captains this year are WHL products, and the list is really impressive. What is it about that, this league, this proving ground that makes them set up for success further on, even off the ice as well?
Yeah, that's a remarkable number when you think about a quarter of NHL captains coming from our league, and part of it is this notion of patience. And I've never heard someone say that, "Wow, I made a mistake. I stayed in the Western Hockey League too long." The guys who are captains in the National Hockey League generally played their 19-year-old year here And what that offers you is, sure, it's a chance to put up a lot of points, but there's a tremendous amount of responsibility, right? You've got to lead teams through the ups and downs and the adversity of the season. You've got to be mature and take on some of these young guys. We have 15 and 16-year-olds coming into a junior hockey locker room for the first time and dealing with the stresses and the adversity of joining the ranks, where you're not, everybody that comes into our league was the best player wherever they came from. And so this notion of having a little bit of patience, everybody is in a rush at all levels of sport these days. And this notion that guys are able to spend time here and take the opportunity to play in every situation and be a leader is equipping them for the next step in their hockey career, which isn't just playing in the National Hockey League, but it's longevity, it's leadership, and it's winning.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the patience. It kind of seems lost in 2025. And speaking of that, I mean, we have to talk about the changing landscape overall in the hockey scene, both at the junior and college levels over the last year, calendar year particularly. When you look at where the WHL is moving next, how has the thought process in terms of development and planning changed at the league level?
Yeah, we're spending a lot of time, as you would imagine, talking and thinking about it. If you do the numbers, I believe there's 14 underage players who left us prior to when we expected them to leave. On the other end, there's probably north of 100 players who would not otherwise be in our league who have joined us. And so, from a change standpoint, the big names that have left obviously have made a lot of noise in the press, but our league has gotten stronger and better. A lot of people were wondering, would this be a 16-year-old league? Well, there's less 16-year-olds in the league this year than there were last year, and that's because of the influx of talent. And it's a hard league to play in. We've seen a ton of parity, a ton of competition, and a ton of fresh faces. You think about a kid like Hurlbert coming in and the impact that he's making right off the jump. There's a number of players like that who we never would have seen before. And despite this change, we're working through it. And then a big part of it will be augmenting the player experience. This isn't a situation where we're going to tell players where they can and can't or should or shouldn't play. We're going to earn their loyalty. We're going to give the best player experience. We're going to develop them in a way that equips them for the next step of hockey. And to the point of rushing, I think when this thing all settles down, we're going to find the vast majority of players are not going to want to cut their high performance or junior hockey career short at all. Max out junior hockey, max out the next step for you, whether that's the NCAA or U Sport. And if you've got a pro opportunity somewhere along the way, we develop you for pro. But if you're not ready, there's lots of other options available for you in between. And so when the dust settles, we think we'll be in great shape.
I love that approach because the path could be different for every player. And you're right, there are so many more doors that are open now. And you mentioned JP Hurlbert coming over from the U.S. National Development Program. You would have never gotten a kid like that previously. And then he comes in and makes the impact that he's had at the WHL. So kind of in connection with that, tell us a little bit more about the educational component here, because that plays a big role as well for families. A question that everyone wants to know. What's that like in the WHL?
Absolutely. We've got a scholarship program, and the way the scholarship works is for every year you play in the league, you earn a full year of scholarship once you graduate from the league. And so the way that works is you'll enroll in the university or college of your choice, and the school sends us the invoice and we write a check for it. And that's each club. So we spent over $3 million this year in reimbursing education for graduates from our league. And of course, before you get there, the high school experience is very, very important. 100% of our athletes graduate high school on time. We've got education advisors in each community, and we take that very, very seriously. And it can be tricky with 4 different provinces and 2 different states and player movement and different things that go on. But we have a well-established structure that now when you layer on NCAA as an opportunity upon graduation, major junior hockey is primed for all athletes, the best players, the ones that want to go to high-end schools, that want to be doctors, lawyers, firemen, insurance brokers, whatever it is. And, we're very, very proud of that commitment we have to players and their families.
Yeah, and graduates is such a great word to use because I think it also changes the sort of connotation and thought process around junior hockey. And you mentioned the choice that players have. I think before some other leagues had maybe looked at it like, oh, if that player moves on, that isn't good for us. But if you look at it as everyone's matriculating and advancing to whatever path that they choose, I think it's probably just the right viewpoint for everyone. And in that same breath, as this landscape continues to change, Dan, and we continue to have these conversations, because the way I look at it, we're probably really not going to understand the full effect and realization of everything that's going on right now for maybe 5 or 6 years. It's going to take some time to settle down. There is conversation about what happens next at the NHL level with regards to 19-year-olds. What is the WHL's stance in terms of allowing one 19-year-old to play in the AHL if they're available or ready for that step? Should the NHL come asking for that?
Yeah, I think that's a complicated question, Frank, that I don't know that I can give you an answer in a short period of time. I think I would try and sum it up to say is I don't think that many would agree that there's 32 19-year-olds who are American League ready. There might be a couple or a handful every year. And so if there needs to be a structure that allows players to have that opportunity, the CHL has always been a great development partner of the National Hockey League. We're always in a position to sit down and try and sort out those things. And, it's very easy to be combative or defensive. But at the end of the day, our success is in developing players to the National Hockey League and on to be great people. And as that changes, we're going to have to be ready for it. We're going to have to adapt, and we're going to have to be good partners.
So well said. And going with that is also some visibility as well. So as we wrap here, just wanted to ask you, we're super proud of the product that we're building here at Victory Plus. How has the partnership between Victory Plus and the WHL allowed you to grow a global audience and create more seamless access for fans to view, whether it's their favorite NHL prospect or just the team in their town?
Yeah, we think the future is free, Frank, and we've been behind a subscription product, and we've come to realize that by charging $129 or $139 a year, it didn't allow us to get the eyeballs on our product that we think is important for our league to gain. The reputation and growth that we're looking for. We think that Hurlbert's family in Dallas is going to want to watch us. We think whatever NHL team that drafts him is going to want to watch us. We think that Utah residents that are Mammoth fans need to see what Tija Ginla is doing this year. And they might not have been inclined to purchase the product, but they're surely going to download Victory Plus. They're going to tune into our games, and we're going to have people across North America and worldwide tuning in to see the best development league in the world. And what that does with more viewership, it's more profile, it's more audience, it's better for player recruitment, it sells merchandise, it sells tickets, and all of those are going concerns as it relates to us elevating the player standard. For us to add facilities, for us to add, environmental things for the players, we have to have a functional operating model, and it's hard to travel through the West. These trips are long, and so this idea that we have a partner like Victory Plus to help expand our audience is a really, really big initiative for us.
Thanks, Dan. We're so proud to be the exclusive home of the Western Hockey League. It was great to have you on the Western Front today. Really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Appreciate it, Frank.